Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, rejoicing across Israel over the signing of the first phase of President Trump's ceasefire agreement and the planned release of the hostages. Plus, nations standing with Israel at the International Christian Embassy's roll call of the nations. And pilgrims coming to Jerusalem from around the world for the 2025 Day of Prayer for the Peace of Jerusalem. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. After 2 years of war, Israel and Hamas agreed to end the fighting and free the hostages. The historic deal sets the stage for a post-war Gaza and Middle East. Now the families of all the hostages wait for their loved ones after more than 700 days in Hamas captivity. Here's the latest on this unfolding story.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You did it!
Some of the hostage families celebrated with President Trump over the phone. Others celebrated in Tel Aviv's Hostage Square. President Trump praised the deal on Fox News with Sean Hannity.
So great for Israel, so great for Muslims, for the Arab countries, and so great for this country, for the United States of America, and that we could be involved in, making a deal like this happen, because it was, many years they talked about peace in the Middle East. This is more than Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East.
He talked about what's coming.
You'll see Gaza being rebuilt. We're forming a council the Council of Peace, we think it's going to be called, and it's going to be very powerful. And it's going to really, I think to a large extent, it's going to have a lot to do with the whole Gaza situation. People are going to be taken care of. It's going to be a different world. I think really the Middle East came together.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released this statement. With the approval of the first phase of the plan, all our hostages will be brought home. This is a diplomatic success and a national and moral victory for the State of Israel. From the beginning, I made it clear we will not rest until all our hostages return and all our goals are achieved. Through steadfast resolve, powerful military action, and the great efforts of our great friend and ally, President Trump, we have reached this critical turning point. President Trump is expected to arrive in Israel on Sunday to celebrate the agreement. The hostages are expected to be released on Monday, an achievement Israelis and others worldwide have hoped for and prayed for more than 2 years.
The Israeli government approved President Trump's deal to free the hostages held by Hamas and end the war in Gaza.
We fought during these 2 years to achieve our war aims. The central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead.
The IDF said its troops are now adjusting operational positions in the Gaza Strip for the implementation of the agreement. Trump said this is a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East.
We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Trump is due to visit Israel and the Middle East briefly next week, and he has been invited to address the Knesset, Israel's parliament. Many Israelis are rejoicing over the promised return of the 48 hostages, 20 of whom are believed to still be alive, held for more than 2 years now. In exchange, Israel is releasing nearly 2,000 prisoners, 250 of them serving life sentences. Some cabinet ministers voted against the plan. Ben-Gvir said that while our hearts are filled with joy, happiness, and excitement over the return of the hostages, it's impossible to ignore the price Israel is paying by releasing terrorists and murderers from prison. He asked Witkoff and Kushner, "Would you make peace with Hitler? Hamas is Hitler. They want to kill us." David Bedin of the Center for Near East Policy Research says, according to Arabic language media, Hamas has not agreed to a ceasefire, only a hudna, a temporary cessation of hostilities in order to regroup. Hamas official Khalil al-Hayya says Hamas will continue its work until Palestinian aspirations are fulfilled.
وسنواصل العمل.
We will continue to work with national and Islamic forces to complete the remaining steps, working to achieve the interests of our Palestinian people, enabling them to determine their own destiny and fulfill their rights. This will continue until the establishment of an independent state with Jerusalem as its capital.
The U.S. is sending up to 200 troops to monitor and oversee the ceasefire deal. Other peacekeepers will likely include Egyptian, Qatari, Turkish, and Emirati forces. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
To talk more about this hostage deal that's unfolding story is Julie Stahl, our senior Middle East correspondent. Julie, first of all, what's your reaction to the hostage deal?
Well, on the surface, it sounds great. Like, we're getting the hostages back, peace in the Middle East. Wow, how great is that? On the other hand, I think there's this dynamic that people don't always understand, that the Western Judeo-Christian mindset is not the same as the Islamic mindset. And just like what we said in the story, the idea of, it's a hudna, not a temporary ceasefire so they can rearm and get themselves ready and battle again. And I think there's that underlying element that we're not really sure what's exactly going on.
That the war's not over completely, that it's just a pause, a temporary pause. And that's an Islamic ideology. It goes back to the beginning of Islam, to the Prophet Muhammad, where Hudna was just a temporary pause till you gain strength and you can continue the war.
Exactly. And, that doesn't sound so good.
Yeah.
I think, most Israelis are extremely excited and thankful that the hostages will come back. The countdown has started by noon Monday in Israel, which is, at 5 a.m. Monday, East Coast time. All hostages should be back alive, and those who are not alive. That sounds amazing. There were some of the parents and some of the relatives of those who've been killed by the terrorists that are being freed in exchange for the hostages that weren't so happy about it.
Yeah.
But
because we have 1,950 prisoners being released, 250 of those that have blood on their hands, basically. They're murderers. And so those families are upset about the deal. Obviously.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
and just adding, historically, those prisoners, when released, go back to commit terror attacks. So what about the families in the future that may be victims of those prisoners? That's
exactly the point. If they were going to go and they were going to now have nice, peaceful, quiet lives, that'd be one thing, but they probably won't. So it's something else.
You follow the Israeli media closely and Israeli reaction. Would you say in one sense that Israelis can breathe again after literally 2 years?
Definitely. They're definitely more relaxed. I think they're excited about this. They really believe it's going to go through, although we've had many provinces in the past, but I think there's a genuine expectation that this time it's really going to happen. And they're very thankful to Trump. They're very much leaning on Trump. It's like Trump is the leader of Israel almost right now. But anyway, so there's a lot of expectation about his visit here.
Would you say that he's getting most of the credit right now?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The only ones that I see giving Netanyahu credit are Trump's envoys, Witkoff and Kushner.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Chris?
Oh, my thoughts. Well, great jubilation for the hostages been released. We have been praying. Israelis have been praying, people have been praying around the world for this to come, that they would be released. And it's really, on the one hand, the angst of the people of Israel. We've talked about this before. Israel's really like a family. So everybody internalizes the fact that these brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers have been suffering for 2 years. And so that, on the one hand, you just celebrate. Yeah. But as we've discussed, there is a sense of, well, the war's not over. There is still an Islamic jihad against Israel, the little Satan. There's one against the United States, the big Satan.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed feeling. And certainly, as you say, President Trump's getting the lion's share of the credit. On the Jerusalem Post this morning, they had a profile of President Trump with all the hostages, pictures, and him. So yeah. Going forward, where do you see Israel and the Middle East?
Well, I mean, you can say what you hope for and what you expect. I mean, I think, President Trump's vision is to really, see everything blossom and more people join the Abraham Accords and trade and rebuilding Gaza into something beautiful. Whether or not that actually happens, we'll see,
Yeah.
I mean, Gaza's full of lots of clans. So it's possible that there are a lot of Gazans there that are not in favor of Hamas, at least not anymore, and might be more willing to kind of jump in.
And I know prophetically some people are seeing this as a possible pause in war and a possible period of peace, looking towards maybe Ezekiel 38 and 39.
Yeah.
We can talk more about that in future, but thanks, Julie, for bringing your perspective.
Thank you.
Coming up, the age-old conflict between brothers in the Middle East. Bishop Robert Stearns gives his perspective. Our next guest was in our studio on October 7th, reporting with us about the massacres at the Nova Music Festival and on the Gaza border. 2 years later, with the hostages about to come home, Bishop Robert Stearns was in our studio again, sharing what he saw on the streets of Jerusalem. Here's an excerpt from our CBN live broadcast, which you can watch in its entirety on YouTube.
Listen, Chris, the atmosphere in Jerusalem is, as you say, jubilation. We just came from Amila, the outdoor area. People are rejoicing. Car horns are blaring, not because of traffic, but because of joy.
Yeah.
People are at the wall, at the Western Wall, praying. Yesterday, there was kind of a sense of people like holding their breath.
Yeah.
Could this be true? That was the atmosphere yesterday. It was hopeful, but still not sure. And today, it's really crossed over. We pray not prematurely.
Yeah.
We pray that this all holds. We understand that it's tenuous. We understand that it's complicated. But there is a strong sense that we are in a historic shift, certainly an end to this war, and potentially a massive shift to the Middle East.
Potentially, I mean, President Trump is kind of trumpeting that, no pun intended, where there would be not only peace in Gaza, but peace throughout the Middle East. Are you sensing that as well?
We've seen since the first Trump administration, when the embassy finally was moved to Jerusalem, we have seen a softening in many moderate Arab states. We've seen the Abraham Accords that were absolutely historic. Every foreign policy expert said that it couldn't be done, and the Trump administration came in and did it. I just flew here a week or two ago from Indonesia. And my first time in Indonesia, I think it's the largest population of Muslims in the world. And even in Indonesia, they are scared of a radicalized Islam. I mean, it's very, very well known. As I spoke with many different Muslim leaders in Indonesia, they're very concerned about the forces of radicalized Islam. So we do see the opportunity, we see a glimmer of hope that there could be some kind of shift in the Muslim world. We need a lot of prayer. We need a lot of intercession. We need a lot of outreach, I think, to the Muslim world. But I do feel that there is the potential for something that's extraordinary that's happening.
They had talked about after the war, there's been this talk of normalization, especially with Saudi Arabia. Yep. But Indonesia has been mentioned as well, and other nations, maybe some sort of normalization or a form of normalization was Syria, Azerbaijan. So this Abraham Accords could expand after this, while maybe suppressing talk of the Palestinian Authority being part of a post-war Gaza. But it does seem complicated, as you say. This first phase is dealing with the hostages. The second phase apparently addressing Hamas disarming. Who's going to disarm Hamas? Is it going to be the IDF? Is it going to be this new international stabilization force, maybe part of the UAE and Saudi Arabia? So still complicating things to unfold. And yet we do maybe feel on the verge of a new era here in the Middle East.
You know, you try to explain this region to people, and it is simultaneously super complicated and complex, and very easy. Let me explain. The complexities you've just talked about. You have Fatah, you have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you've got the Houthis, you've got Iran, you've got Qatar, which you don't even know what to do with on what day of the week, right? So, Turkey. I mean, a lot of complex situations here. On the flip side, making it simple, you have one culture that is a culture of life and another culture that's a culture of death. Radical Islam is a death cult. It has enshrined and brainwashed its children into this concept of jihad, which is tragic. It's child abuse. And the United Nations has been far too complicit and silent for too long in not dealing with the education system in the Palestinian areas, etc. Whereas I tell people the greatest defense of the state of Israel is the simple spirit of the Jewish people, the spirit of the Israeli people, Israeli Arabs. You hear constantly this refrain: all we want is to live in peace with our neighbors. You do not hear in this culture calls for militancy. You don't hear calls for death to Arabs. You don't hear calls for, nobody's here trying to invade Egypt or take over Jordan. They're just saying, can we live in peace with our neighbors? So that's how simple it is. And yet you're absolutely right. There's a complexity to this.
When we come back, people from 71 countries standing with Israel at the roll call of the nations. Despite the security situation and growing anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiments all around, Christians from around the world came up to Jerusalem this week to celebrate the biblical Feast of Tabernacles and stand with the Jewish state. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has that story.
More than 1,400 Christians from 71 nations are here in Jerusalem for the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem Feast of Tabernacles celebration. Israeli President Isaac Herzog welcomed the crowd and called them a living testament to the words of the prophets.
And I quote, "And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations shall go up to worship the King and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles."
Each country represented at the feast came forward with its flag in the roll call of the nations. The U.S. has the largest delegation, but other countries whose governments have been standing against Israel also came.
The Norwegian government, as it is today, is very hostile to Israel, and we're very sorry that that's the situation. Israel will be just fine. I'm more worried about Norway. We need to get our values in order and understand why it's important to stand by Israel.
Bjarte Estebo is a journalist from Norway. Despite Norway's stand on Israel, it's one of the largest delegations at the feast with more than 100 people. He says the pro-Israel community in his country is passionate and understands its obligation to the Bible. As a journalist, he says truth is on Israel's side.
I think the best weapon we have is the truth. I think the truth is also a spiritual weapon. That's why it's in the armor of God. Your belt is the truth.
Joanne Lakuta comes from a town near Manchester, UK, where a synagogue was recently attacked on Yom Kippur. Despite the huge pro-Palestinian marches in London, there are many people in the UK who love Israel. She says Christians need to read the Bible to understand God's plan for the Jewish people.
To see how God called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how he reiterated his promises to Israel all through the Old Testament, all through the prophets, how he reiterated time and time again that Israel, the Jewish people, were his people, his chosen ones, how he had a purpose for them, how he was going to bring them back to the land after they'd been scattered.
Former ICEJ Director Malcolm Heading received the Nehemiah Award for standing with Israel. He says Israel has been through 2 years of unspeakable war and struggled under world pressure to fight annihilation.
Nevertheless, we have to admit that the miracles that have happened here on behalf of Israel, for her defense and for her survival, in the teeth of overwhelming aggression, are nothing but miraculous. So I see the hand of the God of Israel in the restoration of this people.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, Friends of Israel praying together in the Old City for the peace of Jerusalem. For the past 21 years, Eagles Wings Ministry, led by Bishop Robert Stearns, has celebrated the first Sunday in October as the day of prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. CBN News was there on the first event and again on the 21st.
I have to honestly say, there is a sense of divine convergence, divine timing, divine impact on this day of prayer that I don't think I've felt perhaps since the first one. I remember the first day of prayer when Pat Robertson and I walked out on the platform, and that was a moment where you knew God was writing history. Today felt similar. There's something happening in the earth, in the heavens, that is of biblical proportion. And we are just blessed to follow the cloud of God's leading and to see that the nations are coming up to Jerusalem.
Jerusalem's Mayor Moshe Leon came to address the Christians from dozens of nations.
First of all, I'm very happy to welcome all the people that came here from abroad. And it's a good day for Jerusalem, especially in these days that we need the people that are supporting Israel and especially Jerusalem. And it's a very happy day for me.
Why important to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem?
Because I think that if there is a peace in Jerusalem, there is peace in the world. It's a very important issue to do, and I think that there is a peace in Jerusalem now. And this what we have to keep every day. And especially when I'm the mayor of Jerusalem, this is my role, to bring all the people that are living in Jerusalem, Jewish people, Christians, and Muslims, to cause the fact that they are living together side by side.
Well, first of all, it's such a privilege to have here on the Feast of Tabernacles the traditional pilgrimage that Christians make to Jerusalem, not just to show their support for us in the middle of a horrible war, multiple wars at this point. And so for us, it's very important morally to feel that support, but also to be here praying for the peace of Jerusalem, because the Christian evangelical community understand one major truth, that if you bring peace to Jerusalem, you brought peace to the entire world.
Bishop Stearns announced a new initiative called Solidarity Sunday.
The first Sunday of every October, daytopray.com, we pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Where it's going is now solidaritysunday.com, the last Sunday of January, where we welcome the Jewish people into local churches, into our churches, and tell them, you can feel safe in our house, and we want you to feel safe in this city. You are not alone. Ruth said to Naomi, wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. There is a Gentile church, a Ruth church, saying to the people of Israel those exact words.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. And please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and for this critical moment in the history of Israel. And we hope this will be the last time we ask for prayer that the hostages would come home safely and soon. I'm Chris Mitchell. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.